You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Folks, today at the White House, Donald Trump signed an executive order that he said will encourage police departments to adopt higher standards related to the use of force and de-escalating training. Here is what he said.
Today is about pursuing common sense and fighting for a cause like we seldom get the chance to fight for. We have to find common ground. But I strongly oppose the radical and dangerous efforts to defend, dismantle, and dissolve our police departments, especially now when we've achieved the lowest recorded crime rates in recent history. Americans know the truth. Without police.
Come on. I can't keep listening to that bullshit. Here's the real deal, folks. A lot of stuff he was lying in this whole presentation. He lied when he said that previous presidents like Obama and Biden did not try to do anything when it came to policing. That was a flat out lie. In fact, they put in a lot of procedures and practices and rules that Trump rolled back. So I can't get excited because you're actually trying to say you're doing something. The other piece here, when what they laid out is, of course, they had all of these different police officers there, these police unions touting with the creation of this database to track these officers. Here's the problem. Who's going to pay for it? There's no funding in the executive order. So earlier he also met with families of victims, both from Jean, Ahmaud Arbery's family, and others. Lee Merritt, the attorney, yesterday, Jeff Bennett of NBC reported that Merritt was going to be speaking today at the Rose Garden. He was supposed to speak, but right now, though, first of all, he's actually in that hearing taking place before Congress. Now, but one of the things that Lee Merritt, what he did was he put this tweet here out, actually speaking to that, which was taken by some people to be very critical. This is what he tweeted. Reports of a photo op with the president or standing with the White House during the EO signing are false. Show me the civil rights leaders who are upset about families making a direct appeal for federal intervention after the murder of their loved ones, and I'll show you a clown. Well, the reality is Lee Merritt was supposed to be there. He was going to speak. He opted today not to. Civil rights leaders were also critical of him speaking and also being there with Donald Trump. I want to go to my panel. Davon Love, Director of Public Policy for Leaders of a Beautiful Struggle. Cheryl Dorsey, retired LAPD Sergeant. Dr. Cleo Monago is a political analyst. Cheryl, I want to start with you. Again, this is my perspective. Donald Trump's down in all polls. CNN had him down 14 points. Rasmussen, his favorite poll, had him down 12 points. He's losing independents, white women all across the country. Look at the numbers right now. He's tied with Biden in Texas. He's only up 2 in Arkansas, a state he won by 27 points. He's tied in North Carolina. He's down in other places. Today was all political theater to show he actually wants to do something about police reform because he sees how it's killing his reelection chances.
Well, the problem with all of that is that he was being disingenuous and intellectually dishonest in the reforms that he's putting forth. Listen, nothing that he said today is going to change what patrol officers do day to day, and I know this to be true because I was one for 20 years. And so if you ban a chokehold like they're proposing, okay, we saw Daniel Pantaleo use a prohibited chokehold, a banned chokehold in the murder of Eric Garner, and what did the New York commissioner tell us? That wasn't a chokehold. That was an upper body seatbelt restraint. So banning a chokehold and giving it another name, thereby making it not the thing that it is just intellectually dishonest. If you look at when officers can use deadly force, we've always been able to use it as a last resort rather than a first resort. If you have officers who say that they were in fear for their safety or they thought they were in the immediate defense of their life when they shot a man in the back, it's very difficult to argue what's in someone's head. And so all of this really means nothing. And so I'm really disheartened that folks would be so easily led or misled in that the things that they're proposing pretty much already exist, and the things that don't exist are not going to change police officers day to day. What I want to hear them say is accountability. You would think it was a four-letter word, something that they can't say. When a police officer shows up to roll call and 2 or 3 of their partners are not in roll call in their seat because they're facing federal charges or murder charges, police officers will start to do something different. But if you don't hold them accountable, how do you have a guy who's got 18 personnel complaints? You think Derek Chauvin wasn't on a list? We need another one, a national database. Now we know that Rolfe had a dozen personnel complaints. He was on a list. So just having an officer on a list is not going to stop them from killing us. And what about those 7 officers who just quit over in Minneapolis and can now go to another police department who's more in line with their thinking and would continue to kill, but under a different name, wearing a different uniform? There's a Mississippi police chief who saw nothing wrong with the murder of George Floyd. There's a major on the Tulsa Police Department who says more blacks should be shot. And so there's a place for those officers. 57 walked off New York, Buffalo, New York, ERT. 57 SWAT members in Hollandale, Florida, walked off because they were pissed off. Their leader, their chief, took a knee. It's the mindset, it's the culture. And until you address that, we're going to continue to have this problem.
Cleo, you work with law enforcement there in Los Angeles County. Again, all these people, let's praise Trump. Let's give him credit. This executive order, Cheryl was on CNN earlier, and Van Jones and former Chief Charles Ramsey said, now we have a new floor, if you will. I'm not buying it. Because the reality is, I don't believe the Republicans are going to have a serious bill that's tougher than the Democrats' bill, which many say should be even stronger as well.
Roland, I have to say to start that I usually don't watch those videos anymore because it's numbingly painful and it's just sad. So I'm still tripping off the imagery of Dre and knowing that young brother was going to be murdered any moment. So part of my emotionality, but I'm still there. I think we all expect at this point for Donald Trump to perform and say crazy stuff and to lie because, as I've said before, it works. People who support him are not concerned about Black life. They're not concerned about police brutality. I think the sister just broke down a litany of crazy cops, which makes me reiterate the fact that this is not simply a bunch of or a small group of bad apples. As the sister also said, this is a culture. And I just hope that today's allegedly heightened concern around Black people being murdered, inspired supposedly by George Floyd, does create change. And the reason I say supposedly by George Floyd, because in my opinion, there were some gory deaths that preceded him that didn't result in the kind of a so-called outcry that we're dealing with now, which I still believe is mostly because of the COVID-19 social restrictions and all those things are one of the elements here. But yeah, I mean, of course, Trump was lying. He's always lying. I mean, what's next? Bottom line is we need to change the system, and Black people need to hold folks accountable. Vote.
Davon, I can't get excited about an executive order because it's not law. And the bottom line is this here. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, great. I mean, it's good. It's unbelievable. No, I am not. Because the reality is what Donald Trump did today was all about trying to score some cheap political points. He can walk it back on Twitter anytime he wants to. It's a different deal when you sign a bill into law and then you're going to have changes. This executive order, they can slow walk it. They can ignore it. And again, you create a database. Who gives a damn when you don't even say how the database is going to be funded, Davon?
So, exactly. I mean, I think an executive order is typically a president's way of signaling to policy that they don't have the power to enact. And I think it's really important that the issue of police brutality, when we're talking about like the legislative reforms that is necessary, there's a metric that all policy should be filtered through, which is, does this policy undermine the authority that police are given to police themselves? And to the extent that that is undermined is the extent to which a legislative action should be understood to be helpful to that end. One other thing I want to add because I watched the speech that Trump gave, and as you and your other guests have mentioned, he speaks in dog whistle, right? He's a PR marketing person to his base, and there was something really important in what he said that I think we have to push back on, and what that is that he talked about the importance of law enforcement in addressing public safety. Right, and it's actually one of the things that I think, folks on so-called left or people who call themselves radicals, I think don't address that issue to the extent necessary to really talk to our base, like talk to our people. And I think one of the things that Trump is doing is that he's signaling to people who may not be as politically inclined or people who pay as much attention to policy.
Right.
And when he talks about the importance of public safety, what we have to push back on is to say that the version of public safety that Trump, the FOP, and other kinds of entities are pushing actually does not make us safer.
And is actually different from Noble. And again, they're not even listening to black law enforcement officials. All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment. Black businesses, obviously, and so check out these headphones by Ceek. Mary Spio, a sister, she is the designer, the inventor, the creator of these unbelievable great headphones, 360-degree sound 4D headphones. If you do gaming, you can use these headphones. You can actually talk. There's Bluetooth as well. Unbelievable. And so they got a partnership with us, folks, and that is you have a promo code. If you buy these headphones, you get a discount. Go to Ceek.com and use the promo code right there. You see it. RMVIP 2020, RMVIP 2020. And so we certainly want to thank Mary Spio and the folks at Ceek.com.